FM 99.9 in Brikama Town. For all the businessmen and women, move out of the darkness, follow the light. Come sell your business with us today. Home Digital FM, let your customers know what you're offering. Be on top of your competitors. Home Digital FM, we will help you stand out. Come advertise with us today for all your businesses. We offer live program coverage both on Facebook Live and on the radio. Text us to sell your products and services. The media is in control. Tell your customers when, where, and how to meet you through Home Digital FM. Don't worry. Do your business. We will sell you out. Call us today on 734-3125 or 200-5770, 620-1413, 766-8394. Home Digital FM. Follow the light.
Hello and a very warm welcome to your Week in Review program, Africa This Week, looking at the continent's top stories over the last 7 days. Coming up in this edition. Nigeria's security chiefs warned against Bola Tinubu in May.
Even more worrisome are some groups and individuals under the influence of these prominent political elements and social media influencers are continuing to utilize the media space in disseminating fake news and in misinforming unsuspecting members of the public.
Meanwhile, Presidential Transition Council, tasked with coordinating Nigeria's presidential transition process, said preparations for the peaceful handover to the president-elect are still on course.
And I can assure you that we are putting everything in place to ensure that the formal processes of handover takes place, and we do not create any political or constitutional crisis.
Former Ghanaian President John Dramani Mahama, all set to vie for another presidency, as he appeared before his main opposition NDC vetting committee to be vetted as a candidate for the party's flag bearer position for the 2024 presidential election.
It was a very serious interview, and I do think that because of the experience I have, the committee myself, been impressed at the delivery that I gave.
In Senegal, dozens of opposition protesters arrested in Dakar as court found opposition leader Ousmane Sonko guilty of defaming the Minister of Tourism. And authorities in Burkina Faso indefinitely suspended French public broadcaster France 24 over an interview with the head of Al-Qaeda in the Islamic Maghreb. Elsewhere on the continent, Kenya's opposition leader Raila Odinga said his car was shot at 7 times on Thursday during an anti-government protest and said it was an assassination attempt.
My own car was hit 7 times with live bullets, and you could see the direction of the bullet were all aimed at me. Okay.
The controversial Army General son of Ugandan President Yoweri Museveni said he would send Ugandan troops to defend Russia in case of what he called an imperialist threat. Also coming up in our special guest segment, two Guinean Congolese sisters who made names in the Senegalese capital as elite communication experts share their lives, sisterhood and professional relationships with us.
People cannot understand it at the first time, but it's always true. It's like a witch. And a witch? I'm not a witch. I don't think that is a compliment. A witch? Because when I was 16, I had a ring on my tongue. Okay, a piercing. A piercing. And
did you pick that from her too?
No, this is from another sister because she's more like an artist and free in her mind.
All these plus human interest segments, sports and spoken words coming up in the program.
Africa This Week, coming to you from Home Digital, 99.9 FM in the heart of Brikama.
Sheriff Bojang Jnr.
Thanks for joining us again after a month's break. We start in Nigeria, where the secret police this week warned against an alleged plot being hatched by what it called misguided politicians to put in place an interim government after 29 May, when President Muhammadu Buhari leaves office and hands over power to President-elect Asiwaju Ahmed Bola Tinubu. On Wednesday, the Department of State Services, or DSS, said it would do everything in its power to stop the plan, which it said was unconstitutional and punishable by death. DSS spokesperson Peter Afunanya said the department had identified those behind the scheme to thwart democracy. In a press statement, he said the planners wanted to sponsor endless violent mass protests in major cities to warrant a declaration of a state of emergency and also obtain frivolous court injunctions to delay the presidential, legislative and state-level inaugurations. Earlier, President-elect Tinubu had raised the alarm over a plot by some aggrieved partisans to truncate the transition process. In another development, Nigeria's police chief Usman Alkali has warned that appropriate law enforcement actions would be taken against any politician who instigates a breakdown of law and order in the country. He was speaking at a press briefing in Abuja.
This has become critical, granted the recent intelligence and trend in which some elements, by their public announcements and conduct, appear to be bent on triggering the populace into adopting extrajudicial means in the advancement of their political grievances and interests, without minding the dangerous consequences that such a disposition could have on our national peace, hegemony, and security interests. This development is even more worrisome as some groups and individuals under the influence of these prominent political elements and social media influencers are continuing to utilize the media space in disseminating fake news and misinforming unsuspecting members of the public with the sole goal of radicalizing them and guiding them into resorting to civil disorder to threaten our post-election security.
The Inspector General of Nigeria's police force, Usman Alkali. Meanwhile, the Presidential Transition Council, tasked with coordinating Nigeria's presidential transition process, said preparations for the peaceful handover to the president-elect were still on course. Briefing journalists in Abuja, the chairman of the council and secretary to the government of the federation, Boss Mustafa, assured Nigerians that President Muhammadu Buhari would not spend a day beyond the 29th of May timeline in power.
But as far as the Presidential Transition Council is concerned, that's the essence of our setting up the various committees. The inauguration committee, which has responsibility for the processes of the inauguration, the swearing in, the parades, the activities preceding the formal handover of power. The Security Facilities and Intelligence Committee has the responsibility to ensure that nothing happens to truncate the process. So I can give you every form of assurance that Nigerians are very law-abiding people. Whoever has lost an election, we have provided for avenues for those people to ventilate whatever legal inquiry they want to make. But the process will continue unabated. And I can assure you that we are putting everything in place to ensure that the formal processes of handover takes place, and we do not create any political or constitutional crisis.
That was Boss Mustafa, the chairman of Nigeria's Presidential Transition Council. Now to Ivory Coast, where former president and now opposition leader Henri Konan Bédié Thursday called on his party members to unite in order to win the 2025 presidential election. His call followed the defection of some leaders in his PDCI party in recent weeks. The defectors included his former chief of staff Narcisse Ndri, who joined the ruling party. The 88-year-old ex-president who ruled Ivory Coast from 1993 to 1999 also hinted that alliances could be forged with other parties for the next elections. Mr. Bédié has so far not ruled out being the PDCI's candidate in the 2025 election. He will then be 91 years old. Once an ally of President Alassane Ouattara elected in 2010, Bédié has returned to the opposition since 2018, where he has become closer to the supporters of Ouattara's predecessor, Laurent Gbagbo. Still on elections, former Ghanaian President John Dramani Mahama on Monday met his NDC party's vetting committee to be vetted as a candidate for the party's flag-bearer position ahead of the 2024 presidential election. Mahama, who was the first among at least 3 aspirants to be vetted for the position, was quizzed on his ideologies and vision for the party should he win the presidency, according to local media reports. He officially filed his nomination form on March 21st to contest the National Democratic Congress's flag-bearership race. His challenges include former governor of the Bank of Ghana, Kwabena Dufo, and businessman, sports administrator, and politician Kojo Bonsu. Mahama held a press briefing after the vetting session.
It was a very serious interview, and I do think that because of the experience I have, the committee, myself, been impressed at the delivery that I gave. But the work starts now, and I don't underestimate the enormous responsibility I'm taking upon myself. We all know the situation we have in our dear country, Ghana. It needs all of us to step up to the plate and try to rescue this country and put it back on its feet. And so I have offered myself on May 13th, we will go to our primaries, both for presidential and parliamentary. I wish to extend my wishes of good luck to all our parliamentary candidates who are standing. And it is my wish that we will elect very good persons who can win us the majority of seats in Parliament, because we would need a majority in Parliament to be able to execute the agenda that we have when we come into office. It is my hope that my colleagues with whom I am standing for the presidential primaries, we would come together as one after I have emerged as the presidential candidate, rally together in order to ensure that NDC wins the victory in the 2024 elections.
Former Ghanaian President John Dramani Mahama. Dozens of people in Senegal's capital Dakar were arrested Thursday as opposition protesters hurled rocks at police and blocked roads with burning tires while police fired tear gas. Tensions in Senegal have mounted as opposition supporters said their leader Ousmane Sonko was on trial over false accusations meant to keep him from running for president in next year's elections. On Thursday, Sonko was found guilty of defamation for accusing the Minister of Tourism of embezzlement. He was handed a 2-month suspended prison sentence but will remain eligible to run for the presidency. He's also facing separate rape charges. His rape arrest ignited a violent string of protests in March 2021 that led to the death of 14 people. His supporters say both allegations were fabricated to prevent his presidential bid. Authorities in Burkina Faso on Monday indefinitely suspended French public broadcaster France 24 over an interview with the head of Al-Qaeda in the Islamic Maghreb. In a statement, the authorities accused the outlet of acting as a communication agency for terrorism and legitimizing hate speech. On March 6, France 24 aired a discussion about their interview with Akim head Abu Obeida Yusuf al-Anabi, also known as Yazid Mebarek. On March 27, France 24 released a statement defending their work, saying they never directly gave the head the floor and presented his comments in journalistic context. In December 2022, Burkina authorities suspended Radio France International, RFI, another subsidiary of the French state-owned company France Media Monde, over accusation that the broadcaster relayed an intimidating message attributed to a terrorist leader. In March 2022, authorities across the border in Mali suspended both RFI and France 24, accusing them of airing false allegations about the country's military. U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris Wednesday announced in Ghana a $1 billion initiative to improve women's economic empowerment in Africa as she wrapped up the first leg of her tour of Africa. Scheduled to last until April 2nd, her tour of Ghana, Tanzania, and Zambia comes on the heels of a December U.S.-Africa summit in Washington, D.C., where President Joe Biden called for a broad partnership with Africa as the U.S. seeks to assert its presence on the continent in the face of growing influences from China and Russia. Vice President Harris has already announced several aid packages.
Digital services are essential to 21st century economies, and digital inclusion drives growth for all people. Yet there is a gender divide in the world. So today, to help address this, I am pleased to announce here with these leaders that the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, together with our administration, will establish the Women in the Digital Economy Fund, which is a $60 million global fund, which among other things will address access, affordability, digital literacy, and gender inequality. Beyond this commitment, I am also pleased to announce a series of other significant private sector commitments alongside U.S. government efforts. In total, these investments represent more than $1 billion that is being dedicated to advance women's economic participation across the African continent.
U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris speaking in Accra, Ghana. You are listening to Africa This Week on Home Digital with me, Bojang Jnr. A reminder of our top stories. Nigeria's security chiefs warned against an alleged plot to stop the peaceful transfer of power from outgoing President Muhammadu Buhari to President-elect Ahmed Bola Tinubu. Meanwhile, the Presidential Transition Council tasked with coordinating Nigeria's presidential transition process said preparations for the peaceful handover to the President-elect were still on course. Former Ghanaian President Dramani Mahama all set to vie for another presidency ahead of the 2024 presidential election. And authorities in Burkina Faso indefinitely suspended French public broadcaster France 24 over an alleged interview with the head of Al-Qaeda in the Islamic Maghreb. Still ahead in the program, Kenya's opposition leader Raila Odinga said his car was shot at 7 times on Thursday during anti-government protests and said it was an assassination attempt. We also have our human interest, spoken words and special guest segments plus sports and more. Stay with us.
Africa This Week, coming to you from Home Digital 99.9 FM in the heart of Brikama.
The goal of silencing the guns in Africa this decade is being challenged by climate change, terrorism, coups, and the continent's history. This is according to the African Union High Representative for the Silencing the Guns Initiative, Mohamed Ibn Chambers. In May 2013, African Union leaders adopted the Silence the Guns initiative for an integrated, prosperous and peaceful Africa. In December 2020, the Union extended the date to silence the guns in all continent to 2030. Addressing the UN Security Council on Thursday, Chambers linked the challenges to many other factors such as constitutional and economic.
The topic of this important debate is timely. It is coming at a moment when Africa is faced with multiple challenges that put at risk the attainment of the noble objectives of silencing the guns, even by the new date of 2030. The causes of these challenges are historical, constitutional, institutional, economic, social, and cultural. They relate also to the impact of climate change.
That was Mohammed Ibn Chambers, the African Union High Representative for the Silencing the Guns initiative. Now to Kenya, where opposition leader Raila Odinga said his car was shot at 7 times on Thursday during anti-government protests and said it was an assassination attempt. It followed sporadic violence that broke out in Kenya on Thursday, the third day of opposition demonstrations to protest at the government and the high cost of living. Odinga has called for protest every Monday and Thursday, accusing President William Ruto of stealing last year's election and of failing to control the surging cost of living. In a media briefing Thursday, Odinga and his vice presidential candidate in the last election, Martha Karua, said armed police targeted their vehicles and those of other opposition leaders during the protest procession in the Eastlands part of the capital, Nairobi. First is Odinga.
My own car was hit 7 times with live bullets. And you could see the direction of the bullet were all aimed at me, okay? So we want to say that, look, this is really terrible. These demonstrations are going to continue. And on Monday, there's going to be another demonstration. And the mother of the demonstrations will take place on Monday, irrespective of what our detractors say or think.
They were deliberately throwing tear gas. I do not know whether 20 or how many canisters were thrown at Baba's car and directly at the many cars, including mine, that the windscreen was it's shattered, but it's still on. And you can see we have 2-3 other vehicles that have no real. I'll personally be suing Kome for the damage on my car because it is illegal. For the assault on my person today by the tear gas and all those other things.
That was Martha Karua, the vice presidential candidate of Kenya's main opposition Azimio party during the last election. You first heard from the main opposition leader Raila Odinga. Meanwhile, President William Ruto has told a gathering in Nairobi that every Kenyan must submit to the rule of law. In response to the weekly opposition protest, he assured Kenyans that the state would protect them and their properties.
What is going on in Kenya is the usual challenges of democracy, where people want to challenge the rule of law. My position as president is that the property, the lives, the businesses of everybody, Kenyans and foreigners, will be protected by the government of Kenya. All those involved in criminal activity, whoever they are, irrespective of what their status is, will be brought to book.
Kenyan President William Ruto. Well, Ruto's Vice President Rigathi Gachagua was less civil in his response to the opposition protest in Kenya. Addressing his party's supporters, he accused Raila Odinga of using the protest to try to force the government to enter into a handshake deal and bring him into government.
In 1982, he masterminded a military coup against the government of President Daniel Arap Moi. Many Kenyans died and property was destroyed. He wanted to come to power through the back door. It was not possible. In 1997, when he stood for presidency, he was number 4. He lost. He brought chaos and violence, and President Daniel Moi brought him to government and made him Minister for Energy. In the year 2007, Mwai Kibaki, our beloved president, defeated him hands down. He brought chaos. Many Kenyans died. Property was destroyed. And Kibaki brought him into government through Nusu Mukate. You know what he did to Mwai Kibaki. In the year 2017, again, President Uhuru Kenyatta defeated him again. He brought chaos. He sowed fear to President Kenyatta. He brought him to government through the handshake. He came and destroyed the entire Jubilee agenda, made life impossible, confused our president, and made all projects to stall. 2022, we defeated him. He went to court. The Supreme Court made a decision. Again, now he's back. He has brought violence. He has brought destruction of property to intimidate President William Ruto and I to bring him into government. He is trying to come to government. He's trying to mail us into talks. I want to invite people shall not give in to blackmail.
Kenya's Vice President Rigathi Gachagua. The son of President Russia in his imperialist threat. In a General Jose Kenruga will have you face the force with useless pro-Ukrainian propaganda. Kainerugaba, 48, who is used to making controversial statements on Twitter, announced this month his candidacy for the 2026 presidential election. On October 18, 2022, Yoweri Museveni had declared that his son would no longer tweet about the country's affairs after a series of problematic tweets in early October that year, in which he had notably threatened to invade Kenya. From news and current affairs to our human interest segment, this week we feature a community in rural Guinea-Bissau where members came together to set up a makeshift school, principally to teach their kids how to write and read SMS messages. Welcome to Sinjanjai, a jungular village about 175 kilometers east of the capital, Bissau. With a population of less than 400 and most of them farmers, this village is surrounded by tall grasses and thick trees, from where echoes of bird sounds fill the air. In the village center, in an open spot under the mango trees, dozens of women in their colorful dresses sing and dance to welcome me into their village. Right next to the village center is the pride of this village, the primary school. This two-classroom school is built from mud, and inside a humid and dark classroom, a group of pupils between the ages of 8 and 15 proudly read after their teacher. Access to education in Guinea-Bissau is the lowest on the continent, and the government, according to statistics, spends the lowest portion of its budget on education. So villages like this one have no chance of having a state-built school. As a result, the villagers took it upon themselves to build a school to give their children basic education. Samba Kande is the village chief.
We have never had a director or a police officer from this village simply because no one from here has ever been to school. This is why we built this school for our children. We want to give them what we did not have.
The lectures given to these pupils here might not be entirely in line with the national curriculum, but that doesn't matter to these villagers because they are already achieving the aims of building this school. Mariama Jete is one of the parents.
Firstly, we used to walk 7 kilometers to the next village just to get educated people there to dial numbers, write or read text messages for us on our cell phones. But we don't do that anymore because our children can now read and write text messages thanks to this school.
This is one of the poorest areas in Guinea-Bissau, but these villagers are able to build a school and pay the teacher thanks to the Village Savings and Loans project set up by NGO Plan International to economically empower grassroots communities like this one. While this country is expected to finally do away with its dodgy past of political turmoil, NGOs remain instrumental in providing and promoting education. Alassane Drabo is Plan International's country director.
In Guinea-Bissau, the problem is compounded by the situation that the country is in. It's a very difficult economic situation. We're providing institutional support to government, trying to influence the curriculum so that it becomes more gender sensitive.
While neighboring villages with no schools will wait and hope that the current government brings primary education to their communities, the Mud School in Sinjanjai will continue to be the pride of the people here. Now time for the spoken word segment. This week's words come from a South Sudanese activist, Ayak Shol Deng Abe. She calls this for the love of the land.
The love was overwhelming, borderline insanity. It was too much, just too much. I lived and breathed for you in everything I did. I gave and gave my all. You, my all. What else is there to give? Your earth, my baked skin, greedily gulping the blood of my own, spitting the seeds I plant with love, mocking this futile sweat from its fountain of naivety. What else is there to give? What else is there to give? Live like an overgrown who refuses all attempts to be weaned. You have sucked me dry. You have drained and taken life off my ears. What else is there to give? Rail thin and hollow, this emptiness, bottomless like two charged poles. Repulsion is the name of the dance. You inch closer and the soul sears. What else is there to give? This tie's assumed commensal is in truth parasitic. The core is emptied of all its sweetness, translucent both in thoughts and deed. Dare I think of giving? Now that you have crowned me with a halo of bitterness, this broken spirit housed in his body, hungry, exhausted, and simply fed up. What else is there to give?
Spoken words titled For the Love of the Land by South Sudanese activist Ayak Shol Deng Abe. Now time for sports. The qualifying rounds for next year's Africa Cup of Nations AFCON are in high gear across the continent, with 6 teams including the defending champion Senegal already qualified for the tournament in Ivory Coast, scheduled for 13 January to 11 February 2024. Algeria, Burkina Faso, Morocco, South Africa and Tunisia are the other sides who have already booked their places. Now time for our special guest segment. This week, we meet Mariam and Yassira Kamara, siblings born to a Guinean father and Congolese mother, both now based in Dakar, where they work for multiple international organizations as communication experts. The Kamara sisters also run Bantu, one of the biggest and most popular communications and PR firms in Senegal. In this joint interview, they talk about the love, care, and tenderness that shape the bond between them.
Tak menginginkan mengisi ruang hati
I am Mariam Tendu Kamara. I'm from Guinea. My father's from Guinea and my mother's from Congo. But I certainly in my heart feel that I'm fully Guinean because that's the culture I know. But my middle name is Congolese, so I celebrate my mother's heritage through my second name. I'm based in Senegal, in Dakar, for the past 5 years, and I work in communications.
Okay, hello, my name is Yassira Kamara. I'm Mariam's sister. First of all, forgive my English because I'm more at ease in French.
Thank you. And I start with you, Mariam. I guess you watch your younger sister grow. What child did you remember her to be?
Actually, she was such I'm saying it really honestly because I say she changed as an adult, but as a young child, she was so full of life. She was beautiful, glowing skin and beautiful energy, beautiful hair. She was always dancing around. She was like, we thought that she was going to be on stage, playing acting theater or being a dancer because she was always, jumping around and she was not afraid of going towards strangers. So that's really what I remember of her is that we used to...
Where did she get that from?
I think she got it from my father, from my father, because my father is really out there with presence and charisma. He has a very strong personality. But I think that the Congolese side from my mother is a very subdued, quiet type of person. So we can't say that she got it from my mother, but I do think that there is that, repressed side of my mom that came out through her. So that's what I remember as a child. She was just a beautiful young girl as a child. Not to say she's no longer a beautiful child, but I love her as a baby.
And Yassira, do you remember this dancing child Mariam is talking about?
Yeah, of course, because it's still part of me. And what she doesn't know, is that all that energy and that love I was blowing away were coming from them. When I say them, it's her and my brothers and other sisters. And I remember very, very clearly of that.
And then as a child, what character or what behavior or what quality did you pick from Mariam? For some of the first qualities, do you remember picking from her?
Wow, the most, maybe I can say the most high quality is smartness, because Mariam she always been, this is very hard because I think I'm begin crying because she's just here and it's emotional for me to speak about her like this in front of her because I have to say this before saying the other thing, is that we always argue because she feel like I do not accept her how she is, and I so accept it that sometimes I want to control her and I want her to be like I want. And to come back to the question, she the most high quality she gave me is to stay focused and to look forward, because she is the only one in the family who, when she sees somebody, she sees a situation, she sees something, the feeling she has is so strong and maybe so people cannot understand it at the first time, but it's always true. It's like a witch. And
who's a witch? I'm not a witch. I don't think that is a compliment. A witch?
Because when I was 16, I had a ring on my tongue. Okay, a piercing. A piercing. And
did you pick that from her too?
No, this is from another sister because she's more like an artist and free in her mind. But Mariam is also free, but it's something.
How did Mariam react? Do you remember how Mariam reacted to that?
Yeah, because she was the one who discovered it. So I had it maybe for 1 year. Nobody saw it. I was like so proud.
How did you feel, Mariam, when you saw that?
Let me tell you how she had the story. So I was sitting in the living room in Paris. She came for the vacation, en plus, I have to say that. And I was singing with my friend. My friend came at home, and we were singing. And Mariam was sitting just in front of me. And I said, I sang the song, and she said, "What is that? What?" And I said, "What?" And she said, "What is that just on your tongue?" And I said, "Nothing." And I just tried to get up and go in the bathroom and put it off quickly and come back. And she said, "No, you won't go anywhere. Open your mouth, open your mouth." And then she called, because she's the expert in communication. She told that to everyone. So I have
blabber mouth, huh?
Yeah, I remember. It's true. It's true what you said. It's like I just saw something shining. I didn't even. I just saw something that sent some rays, and I'm like, something is in her mouth. and I said, I don't think that. I don't know. I just said, "What is in your mouth?" And no one had discovered it, because it was like in the middle of her tongue. And I said, "Don't tell me that's a piercing that you have in your mouth. Don't tell me that's what you have in your mouth."
And did you remove it from that time?
Yeah, I had to, and I tried to put it back in maybe 3 months after. But after everybody in the family said, prostitutes do that.
And Mariam is a real 100% talkative. Where do you think she got that from? Where did that start? Did you always notice that she was always talking?
This is Mariam. It's her. It's how she is. Even in the family, she's always communicating, trying to express what she feels. And I think she got that from my father, because as she said, my father is very expressive, and he's laughing very loud, but also from my mother.
And then yesterday, being apart, you've all always pursued your lives and careers separately, different parts of the world. You in France, Mariam at some point in the US, and all those things, hardly together. Even when she was in Dakar, you were elsewhere. Did that in any way affect your relationship, the bond between you two?
Oh, yeah. Because, Mariam is always saying, in America. And I'm like, it's kind of difficult.
And being apart, Mariam, did you often miss her?
She was, for a long time, like the baby girl, because she is actually still the last girl of the family. And so there's a 15 years span, difference between. I mean, I was there the day she was born. And I always remind her of that, in case she forgets. I don't care if she knows social media better than I do. That's the reality. And we taught her how to spell the words right. She forgets that too. But no, we miss each other. I think we have that bond. But the girls in the family are a little stronger in showing affection and showing and communicating affection. I'm talking about just speaking affection through the words, because in all family, blood and love is there always. But being able to communicate it's another whole game. So when she's away, and she has this personality, because when she was growing up, she was the babysitter for everyone. Like, so for my big brothers and my cousins, when she was in Paris, when we had to go out, she was the one who was to care for all the little ones that were there, our nephews and cousins and all that.
Just briefly, how often does Mariam remind you of the day you were born?
No, I think it's only when she's mad at me. It's only when, as she said, when she tried to advise me, and I said, "No, because you don't understand, and you did that. Oh, yeah, you were young too. So why could I not do it, and maybe after take a lesson?" And then she said, "You know what? I saw you coming on this earth, okay? So you have to listen."
And do you feel sometimes because of the way she reacts to you, she refused to accept the fact that you were not the baby, that she's so born you're an adult?
No, because I think that was the case maybe about 6 months ago. But now that I live with her here in Dakar, it's like I had a revelation. I think she knows that, because now I'm trying to see, okay, she loves me. if she says that, I just have to look, to go under and not just on the front and say, okay, she just won. Oh, Lord, oh, no, I'm tired. Because I was, in the beginning when I arrived in Dakar, I was like, oh my God, who told me to come here? She's always criticizing. She's always giving her opinion. What's that? But now truly, and from the bottom of my heart, I know that it's because she loves me, period.
You see, I want to correct a few things because I happen to be looking like the bad guy here because it's not the case for the record. One day I told her when she came recently to Dakar, I said, my mission is going to be, I'm going to be your coach. And she said, did I ask you to be my coach? I said, well, it's a self-assigned mission.
You said a Chinese master.
I said, what?
A Chinese master.
I said, yeah.
I have to accept everything, and after I will see the results.
See, she's painting me like a dictator. It's not true. No. And you know what happened? Actually, what she said, that only 6 months ago she thinks that I was seeing her as a baby before. It's not true because, Yasser has made a lot of decisions. Like, for example, she's traveled, she decided to go 2 years ago to Bamako. I mean, everyone, including our parents and our family, our brothers and sisters, everyone said, hey, that's what she wants to do. She should do it. We gave her support, but of course, just because you accept someone's decision doesn't mean that you're gonna keep your mouth shut. I mean, no, you said, listen, I understand, I respect. And saying, whether we talk about, she decided a couple of years ago, about a year or 2 years ago, that she wanted to grow locks. I mean, I want to go back to the story of the ring because I don't want to appear as if I'm so conservative. When you're under 18 or you're 16 years old, I always say, until you're about 18, then you should be able to take responsibility for your decisions. But I think that up until that age, elder people who are older than you, and not just parents, it can be anyone, and it doesn't have to be just your blood sister. It can be someone older than you. If someone gives you some advice, it's for your own good, and that person could be wrong, but it's not. It was meant to be to say. I think that year she was supposed to prepare her French baccalaureate, and so some of the things that we saw that she was doing was associating her with those party animals, people who when you're 16 you want to fit. You have that social pressure. You have to do the things. We didn't feel that it was really what came out of what she wanted. It's a different process. It's not like as if, we know that she's always liked rings and piercings and she's always said, oh, I like tattoos, and one day she does it. But it came out of the blue, and that's understandably. So anyway, coming back to what I was saying, I think that for me, I think that I gave Yassira responsibility for a decision the day she decided to move to Mali, and when she came to Dakar, it's a different game because we're in the same city, and yes, I know the city in a different way, but we're working in the same. I mean, she came with an objective here. She didn't just come to say, "Oh, I'm going to come and try it out in Dakar." She came and said, "Hey, we're launching this startup. We're going to do this, agency, and we're going to do this." With the missions and goals, and also she came away with an objective. With that in mind, and being in the same space, in the same city, I took it upon myself. I agree with that part to say, okay, I'm going to be that person that I wanted to have at her age that I didn't have. You understand? I mean, I didn't have so early, so close to me, someone that could just say, okay, don't worry about this, we will take care of this later, don't worry about this, it's okay, or this is what I think. I think it's so important for women, African young women, to have mentorship and coaching. I mean, that's a whole different talk show if you want. We can talk about that. But that's the role I've been giving myself.
And finally, and briefly, I know you too close to each other, very close. Perhaps you tell each other almost everything. But almost is not everything. Is there anything that you've always hidden away from her? And you want to take this opportunity today to say, there you go.
I'm sorry, you're too late because it was the case maybe 1 week ago. And I told her something that it was the last thing. Now I'm clear in front of her because it was a lie and I confessed it. and she forgave me. So you're late. From heart to heart,
our special guests, Mariam and Yasira Kamara, siblings born to a Guinean father and Congolese mother, both now based in Dakar, where they work for multiple international organizations, especially the UN, as communication experts. And that brings us to the end of this edition of your Week in Review program, Africa This Week, on Home Digital 99.9 FM. I'm your producer and presenter, Bojang Jnr. Thanks for your company, and join us the same time next week for another edition of the program.
Hingga diriku menyerah, tempatkanlah aku di sisimu.
Digital FM 99.9 in Brikama Town. For all the businessmen and women, move out of the darkness, follow the light. Come sell your business with us today. Home Digital FM, let your customers know what you're offering. Be on top of your competitors. Home Digital FM, we will help you stand out. Come advertise with us today for all your businesses. We offer live program coverage both on Facebook Live and on the radio. Text us to sell your products and services. The media is in control. Tell your customers when, where, and how to meet you through Home Digital FM. Don't worry. Do your business. We will sell you out. Call us today on 734-3125 or 200-5770, 620-1413, 766-8394. Home Digital FM. Follow the light.